dropped out, mostly to me. This has gone by so in light of the moon shining down on me. Feel so alive when it's you and me. Hello, folks. Welcome to another episode of SHU Outdoors. Today, as the thumbnail indicated, we're going to discuss the Aryan Brotherhood. My take on the Aryan Brotherhood, also known as the brand. For context, I did 14 years in New York State, and I did another 10 years in the Federal Bureau of Prisons. Result of being hard-headed, things could have been a lot different, but it is what it is, another day in the hood type of story, right? So I found myself in federal prison. I got the Canaan in like 2013. That was my first federal penitentiary, and at that time, I heard it may have changed a little bit now. I don't know, but at that time, it was a pretty rock and roll U.S. penitentiary, and that's where I met my first couple of brand members, and I ended up traveling across country in the federal system, from coast to coast, back to this coast. Yeah, true story, right? So I was around quite a bit in that system, and in the federal system, they used to have way more influence back in the day. But truth is, there's only a handful of them dudes walking around on active yards in the federal system nowadays. Really, because they lost the consent of the individuals that they had wished to govern by their dope fiend, scumbag, homicidal behavior. All right? They fell out of favor. And also, the federal system isn't just one state, even a big state, like, say, California. It's 49 other states and several United States territories. So there's no way that one state is going to come into that system and dominate it, at least for very long, before the other states and the other territories will rebel. Okay, and they'll just fall out of favor. At least that's what happened with the white men in federal penitentiaries. I did all my time in a federal penitentiary, 9+ years on a 10-year sentence. So I have a pretty good gauge on it. Now, obviously, you have several other federal prison organizations that are, white, wood, wood on my skin, wood federal prison organizations. And most of those have many, 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 many more members than the brand does. I say they fell out of fashion. When you hear that name and you're a young white person, you hear that name and it's associated with these individuals in a prison, you would say, well, that name sounds like it means like, these guys are going to make sure that other good white prisoners, but maybe not killers or tough guys, are going to be all right. But that's not the case at all, okay? I found them to be, with the exception of one or two that was, all right guy, but, I knew that could change at the drop of a hat. You know what I'm saying? So one or two of those members that were all right. And I'm talking about the federal faction that has direct roots to the California prison system. But like I said, I knew that could change in a New York minute, so to speak. Most of them I really wasn't that impressed with. I just thought they were everything but cool dudes who looked out for their race and did the right thing. Nah, that wasn't my experience at all. And that's why the brand fell out of favor at the United States penitentiary level. Pure and simple, all right? I think it's easy to say, the name is iconic, fair enough. And it's easy to be misled by their name as an organization. But in all truth, what works in California don't work in the rest of the country, homie. And that's just the bottom line. So that's the situation in there now. I know they're the highest power in the state of California. Most of you guys worship them out there, but yeah, not on the East Coast. We own some other shit. We do our own thing, and that's just the way it is. There's still a handful in there, and they're doing their thing, but the other organizations have thousands or definitely deep hundreds of members. So their days of giving orders and doing all that wild stuff they used to do way back in the day, them days are pretty much null and void at this point. Like I said, they're still around. And, I ain't saying they ain't doing their thing, but nowhere near on the level that a lot of people may think they are. In all truth, the independent white dudes, when I first went in, this movement was starting, where basically just the independent white dudes is told basically the gangs, y'all do y'all and we're gonna do us. All right? We're gonna ride together as our state, okay? And if it depends on how many of us is there, 2 or 3 states might ride together from that region. You know what I'm saying? And we're just gonna be independents. The difference between independent wood, POW, and organized an official quote unquote, organization is that one has a constitution, bylaws, that those dudes are obligated to live by. They sign up for that actually, and the wood pile is this stand up ass white dudes who work out, eat, and do our thing together. Yeah, I knew plenty of gang members that I was cool with, white guys, of different organizations, because in the feds, okay, a lot of yards are going to be, especially penitentiary yards, are going to be broke up between Texas and California. And the main reason for that is because most of the oldest gangs, not all of them, but most of what we think about is the oldest gangs in America originate from those 2 states amongst Mexicans, blacks, and whites. And, so they tend to butt heads, kind of like on site. And maybe that's done changed a little bit now. I've been out for a while, I'd say about 3.5, 4 years. But I was going to launch this channel sooner, but I had so much PTSD from 10 years in the federal prison system. It took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do, because my first option for a channel really wasn't a prison talk channel. I had wanted to do some other things, and maybe I will at some point. But for right now, this is what we're doing: a prison content, prison talk, storytelling type of channel. And yeah, so hopefully that works out for us. And I just want all my subscribers to know one thing, man. You guys mean the world to me, whether if it's one of you or a million of you, okay? And we're going to start producing a little more quality content, and it will get better and better as we go along, as we figure out how to do more things and stuff. But that's just really my take on the Aryan Brotherhood. And I got a Shamrock on my hand, and as you can see, it's very old. It was plugged in like way back in the day sometime, and I wore that all the way through federal prison, and I never had no problem with the brand. I got all kind of shamrocks all over my house. You know why? Because I'm an Irishman from the East Coast, and that's the shit we do, rock shamrocks, all right? Um, yeah, so, you know, and another thing, I don't have no symbols in that. See, that's not their patch. Their patch is going to have numbers in it, 3 specific numbers, all right? And that does it, all right? So, you know, I'm never perpetrating a fraud. You got dudes in there with shamrocks and stuff. They ain't got no problem with the brand. Maybe out in California where they worship the brand, but you know, not in the real big leagues where it's not just violence, but you got people who could think, and you got people from all over the country. You know, it's an opportunity to grow and progress and meet people. You know what I mean? I'm a white man. I don't have no identity crisis. Oh, but it don't mean I can't hang out with this guy, that guy, do this and that, try to make some money here, try to make some money here. Now I do everything legally, but you know, that was always my thinking even back in the day. And having lived in New York City for 30 years, it was just a much easier process. It wasn't a struggle for me, and it kind of worked out because, as you can tell, I talk with a Southern accent because I'm not originally from New York City, but I did live there for about 30 years. And so a lot of times in federal prison, I was able to go over and kind of bridge the gap between a lot of the more Southern whites and then homies and shit from NYC and like New England, that whole Jersey, New England, New York City, New York State area. So a lot of times it kind of worked out for me in that regard because, you know, a lot of people grow up in certain type of areas and they don't really have a lot of exposures to other racial groups. And it's not always easy for them to communicate effectively. Communication is really key, or sometimes things can happen that can easily be talked about and worked out. And then sometimes things happen that can't be talked about or worked out. And the main goal of being one of the essential qualities of being a good leader is knowing when an issue can be talked about, when there is an opportunity to try to keep making money and moving forward and doing the things we like to do, and knowing when, nah, man, this shit can't ride, because if it rides, we're going to look weak. And we ain't got to be the toughest dudes on the yard, but the toughest dudes on the yard need to know if you cross certain lines, not just one line or 2 lines, they might be 4 or 5 different lines. But if you cross any of those lines, there's going to be consequences. So there's some things you could talk about. I would say it's probably about 75-25, you know, because unfortunately in any group or dynamic, you're going to always have crash test dummies that just do nonsense. And, you know, and their homies are kind of obligated to ride for them, even if they want to, because if somebody tries to get at me and I'm with a whole bunch of woods, we're all going to pop on their ass, and vice versa. You know what I mean? Because that's my homies. And even if they're wrong, I'm going to ride with them. And when the issue is addressed here, if you was wrong, we'll deal with your ass when we get you in the rec cage. Because like in the feds, they put you in the rec cage with 6 or 8 people, sometimes 9 or 10, sometimes 4 or 5. It's like a, you know, big dog kennel that holds more than 1 or 2 people. Now, I mean, obviously in ADX it's a 1-man cell and stuff, but then they got 1-man cells in every shoe in the feds. Like if you're in PC or your rec alone, cell alone, and stuff like that. They do have a few up front, but for the most part, they're gonna put you. They got like a run of 8 or 10 big ass cages that hold. You know, you could probably put up 12 people in there, but they won't do that. But they might put 6 or 8 or 9 in there. That could happen. And if your ass ain't right and something doesn't come down on you, it's a perfect place to get you. You know what I mean? When I was in Victorville, man, I carried a floater to wreck every day that I was in that hole, man. Yeah. And then I got busted with it because I would cheek it, and they never check my cheeks. But I need somewhere where I can get it out real fast, right? This one dude, man, this one rookie, man, motherfucker put me on the wall. I was in handcuffs. Motherfucker swiped me. He didn't get all up in there, but he ran his hand up through there, man. He felt it, man. I had been taking that shit to wreck for like 2 months, man. Okay, I made it out of the lid, bam, and it was a good floater too, man. I could definitely defend myself with it for sure, or other things. But yeah, so I won't talk your ear off anymore, but hey, I really appreciate it if you think about liking and subscribing. We're going to get this channel up and running, and I promise you, man, I will produce good content, and all my subscribers and all my viewers, man, it means the world to me. This ain't my channel. This is our channel. I want to shout out my dude, Chad Marks, Blood on the Razor Wire, man. Love your content, love your channel, view it quite often. Hey, I know you are part of the Bills Mafia, man. I already know what it was. I was over there in your neck of woods in Livingston, Groveland, and Collins, right? And yeah, so I already know. You know, if you're in the day room watching TV and Buffalo's playing and they're winning, you could kind of not you cheer for the other team. But if Buffalo starts losing, if Buffalo starts losing and you cheering for the other team, you might end up getting in a fight, man. Yeah, the Bills Mafia goes hard. But be that as it may, look, man, I bet you 5 push-ups. Keep the bet lightweight, low-key, man. I bet if you get this before Buffalo and Jaguars play, I bet you 5 push-ups, and I would give you 1 point. I take Jacksonville, you take Buffalo. All right? 5 push-ups is payable on the next episode either of us make, okay? Either of us make after the game, okay? 5 push-ups. That's it, man. If I lose, I need to do 5 push-ups and dedicate them to you, even if you don't get this footage and you don't accept. But if you lose, you ain't got to pay me. But anyway, I'm definitely issuing that challenge. And if you want to pay me, that'd be cool. 5 push-ups, dog. That's nothing to giants like us. Peace.